Saving water is an art that both the desert plants and the desert animals have learned to practice. But it's the plant's appearance that has been most obviously modified by it. Most of the birds show no outward signs that they live in a land of little rain, and the quail who sit 30 feet up in the saguaro pecking moisture from its fruit look, once on the ground, as sleek as their cousins who drink when they like. Your rabbits, chipmunks, and other small rodents come in pale desert colors, which seem to suggest the dryness of their surroundings, but it's more a matter of protective coloration than the actual result of short rations of water. Almost every plant, on the other hand, has modified itself in some visible way and announces to the most casual beholder that moisture is precious. One need not be much of a botanist to notice that, except for the cactus, most of the plants are merely desert versions of those familiar in other regions. The desert poppy, desert hackberry, desert mallow, and desert rubina are only a few examples of plants whose blossoms announce clearly the groups to which they belong. It's also equally easy to see what they've done to themselves in order to survive happily under these conditions, and to observe the devices they found useful by one species, often repeating another. Perhaps there's no better example of the fact that various of nature's children, like various races of men, have arrived independently at the same solution to the same problems. Just as the bee, the bat, and the bird each discovered for himself the principles of flight, so the same methods of water conservation have been arrived at by wholly different plant families, each of which has evolved differently from the others. Some anthropologists have argued that the existence in widely separated human tribes of such things as the swastika, the throwing stick, and the bow and arrow prove that the cultures had a common origin. But if animal families can independently invent wings, and if plant families can independently arrive at succulents and thorns, why should it seem improbable that the phenomenon of convergence could also manifest itself in connection with human ingenuity? Certainly, the lines along which plants have worked are a few and have directed towards three simple ends: to get water, to conserve it, or to get along most of the time without any. Moreover, the few practical devices for achieving any of these ends are repeated over and over again. To get water, one must, of course, send down roots. This, as might be expected, certain trees do, though the method is the more remarkable in certain plants, notably the yuccas, whose above surface size is modest. Up the slopes of the gleaming gypsum dunes in White Sands, New Mexico, one may see the yuccas lifting their oddly lush masses of lily blossoms above the burning bone-dry powder, which does not seem possible that anything could live. And, as a matter of fact, precious few other things can. The secret, I am told, is a root which may go down 40 feet into the soil below the gypsum. But how on earth, one might well ask, can a seedling live long enough in a pure, only slightly soluble chemical to grow a 40-foot root? The answer to that is another secret. Like the snow drifts they resemble, these gypsum dunes shift slowly. In the vales beneath, the soil is sometimes only a short way down. In some such valleys, a seedling starts, and then, as the sand drifts over that, the yucca lifts its head higher and higher to keep the air-breathing leaves above the surface. Sometimes, no doubt, it loses the battle and is buried hopelessly in hot, dry powder. Sometimes it wins, and then one may see it triumphantly crowning a mountain of gypsum from which not even the most resourceful plant could draw sustenance. Sometimes, on the other hand, it's hardly worthwhile for a plant to go down because there's very little water even at 40 feet. Hence, the kind of plant which grows in any given desert region is based considerably on whether there's water beneath the surface. 10 or 15 miles north of where I am, the yuccas grow everywhere in the loose, rocky soil of the mountainside, where there's little earth, but where the loose gravel allows water to soak in. Here, on the flat, packed sand, they do not. The saguaro flourishes because its method is not to go deep, but to seize quickly and store up what falls in rare, brief, sudden downpours that run off quickly without penetrating far. These monstrous cacti, sometimes as high as 50 feet, sometimes weighing as much as 2 tons, and living as long as 200 years, have no real tap roots at all. Just below the surface of the soil, a flat, disc-like network spreads for yards about them. When a rain comes, they quickly take up the water from a wide area, sometimes swelling visibly and absorbing as much of a ton of water from one rain. After that, they may go for a year, if necessary, without taking water again.